Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the UK say that a controversial social media personality has been sentenced to time in a youth facility this week after he was warned and given a court order to stop harassing random people in his videos, but he carried on anyway, insisting that the country's laws were a joke. According to reports, 19-year-old Bakari Bronze Ogaro, better known by his TikTok name Mizzy, is known for his outlandish prank videos, ones that have earned him both attention and criticism due to the fact that they often involve unwitting members of the public. These so-called pranks have apparently ranged from getting into the back of strangers' cars, to grabbing a random schoolboy by the back of his collar, to fighting a man with dwarfism, destroying books at a library, and running off with an elderly woman's dog at a park. While all of these stunts reportedly generated their fair share of controversy, it was one of Mizzy's most popular videos that apparently first got him in trouble with the law. In it, he can be seen walking into a random home and making himself comfortable on a living room couch. He stays there until a man, presumably the homeowner, asks him to leave, as children in the background can be heard calling for their dad. After the video went viral, in May of this year, Mizzy was arrested and slapped with a criminal behavior order over the incident. As part of the legal proceedings, he was instructed not to post videos of people without their consent and not to go on social media other than to send messages. The same day the order was issued, however, he reportedly went right back to posting, once again with members of the public featured in his videos. In one of these videos, he stated, quote, "The UK law is a joke." He repeated similar sentiments during a tense televised segment with journalist Piers Morgan, saying that the laws were weak and that it wasn't his fault. Going on the defensive after his arrest, the 19-year-old claimed that the people featured in his videos were in on the jokes and that some of the scenes were staged. However, he also claims that he doesn't fake his pranks, so I'll leave you all to sort that one out. In October, Mizzy was found guilty of 2 counts of breaching a court order, and this week he was sentenced to 18 weeks at a young offenders institution. Apparently, he will only have to spend half of that time actually at the facility though. The 19-year-old was also banned from posting to social media for 2 years. During the sentencing hearing, the judge in the case, Matthew Bone, said he didn't see the humor in Mizzy's actions, stating, quote, "Put bluntly, your pranks aren't funny." He also said that it was clear that the 19-year-old was motivated by a desire to be famous and that he would likely need further help not to reoffend. In other social media-related crime news, representatives from the Hong Kong police force say that they have arrested a 25-year-old influencer this week after she allegedly planned 2 attacks against her ex-boyfriend and his restaurant. According to reports, the whole thing started at around 7 p.m. on November 18th, when the unidentified 36-year-old victim was at his restaurant Chill Burger Den, located in Hong Kong's Kowloon Tong residential district. The man was apparently standing outside smoking a cigarette when out of nowhere a person ran up and splattered both him and one of the business's walls in red paint. Before the victim could react, the culprit had run off. About 6 hours later, things got a whole lot more serious when the unknown suspect returned to the scene, this time accompanied by a second person. The first suspect acted as a lookout, while the new accomplice reportedly threw a gasoline bomb at the entrance of the restaurant. Thankfully, no one was inside at the time, and a security guard was able to extinguish the resulting fire before it could do much damage. Once again, the culprits managed to escape. Despite this, after launching an investigation, police say that they were quickly able to link the 2 incidents to the victim's ex-girlfriend, a 25-year-old social media influencer from Kowloon City. She was arrested on November 19th on suspicion of arson, assault, and criminal damage after police say that she masterminded the 2 attacks. They believe the crimes were planned because the victim owed her 500,000 Hong Kong dollars, or about $64,000 US, for an outstanding loan. At the time of this recording, the influencer's identity has not been released, though police say she remains in custody. They are still searching for the 2 people who they believe actually carried out the 2 crimes. Authorities in the Indian state of West Bengal say that they are investigating a disturbing and mysterious alleged murder case following a gruesome discovery inside of an apartment building last week. The whole thing started on November 14th when a crew of workers were sent into the top floor unit of a 4-story apartment building in the city of Kolkata. The workers had been sent to clean and renovate the residence so that it could be rented again after it had been left vacant for more than 2 years. As the crew were doing demolition inside the bathroom, they came across a large blue plastic drum which they initially assumed had been used to store water. When they noticed it was sealed with concrete, they decided to break it open. It turned out to contain the skeletal remains of a human body. After launching an investigation, police spoke with the owner of the apartment building, Gopal Mukherjee. He stated that he had not been inside the unit in some time, and that he had only recently decided to rent it again following a strange situation with the former tenants. Mukherjee said that the tenants were a couple from Nepal who had first started renting the place from him in 2018. They moved out in 2021, saying that they were going back to their home country, but that they would be returning soon. In the meantime, they continued to pay rent. However, those payments had stopped about 6 months ago. Mukherjee said that since then, he had only managed to get in contact with the couple once or twice, who promised to send money soon. When their phone number was disconnected, he decided to cut his losses and rent out the apartment to someone new. Unfortunately for police, Mukherjee did not remember the names of his tenants, though was able to provide them with the rental agreement they had signed. He also gave them the now disconnected phone number they had been using to communicate. While nothing about the couple has currently been reported as far as we can tell, police say that they have made an arrest in the case. That person has been identified as a man named Amit Damai, who was arrested hundreds of miles away in the state of Maharashtra. According to police, Damai is a friend of the Nepalese couple and also works as a property broker. In fact, he was apparently the one who found the pair of the apartment they rented from Mukherjee in the first place. Following his arrest, Damai allegedly told police that the body they found in the unit belonged to a woman who had died there at least 14 months prior. He claimed that the couple from Nepal were, quote, running an illegal business involving women, and that he had received a call from them around this time saying that they were fleeing the city and that he should think about disappearing as well. Damai said that he did as he was told. At the time of this recording, many questions remain about the disturbing situation. The alleged murder victim's identity is unknown, and it appears no motive or cause of death has been uncovered either. Police say that their investigation is ongoing and that they are still searching for the couple from Nepal. Authorities in Turkey say that a UK man is in custody this week after he was accused of brutally murdering his wife inside their hotel room while they were on vacation together. According to reports, the situation began at around 12:30 on the morning of November 14th, when staff at the hotel in question in the city of Istanbul were alerted to disturbing noises coming from room 111. They ran up to investigate, only to hear what was clearly a woman screaming, causing them to force their way inside. When they did, they found the female victim, 26-year-old Ayaan Mohammed Doba, lying on the floor. She had been stabbed more than 40 times with a screwdriver that was found thrown into the room's toilet. Sadly, Ayaan was pronounced dead shortly after. Following a day-long search, police tracked down and arrested Ayaan's husband, 28-year-old Ahmet Yassin, in connection with the crime. At the time he was taken into custody, he was reportedly wearing a t-shirt covered in bloodstains. After his arrest, Yassin allegedly claimed that he had attacked his wife following an argument. He also claimed that she had given him drugs, which he said were responsible for his actions. Police say that the couple were visiting Turkey from England and had been in the country just 3 days at the time of the alleged murder. At the time of this recording, Yassin remains in custody. The investigation continues. A Chinese Good Samaritan reportedly found herself in quite the frustrating situation recently when she tried to help an elderly man who had been injured and was thanked for her efforts with false accusations and demands for money by him and his family. According to reports, the whole saga unfolded recently in the city of Tianjin when the woman was walking to work and spotted a man who appeared to be in trouble. The elderly man had apparently fallen in the middle of the street and looked as though he likely wasn't going to be able to get back up. Without hesitating, the woman ran to help the man, calling for emergency services at the same time. She accompanied him to the hospital and even paid for his medical bills, which totaled 3,000 yuan, or about $420 US. Rather than being thanked for what she had done, though, the woman was reportedly accused of causing the elderly man's injuries in the first place when his family arrived at the hospital. On top of the 3,000 yuan she had already paid for his treatment, the family demanded another 10,000 or $1,400 in compensation. The family claimed that there was no way the woman would have taken the man to the hospital or paid his bills if she wasn't responsible for what had happened. Completely stunned by this turn of events, the woman informed the family that she was a police officer and tried to explain that she did what she did because she viewed it as both her moral and professional duty. The family still didn't believe her, and to the woman's horror, the elderly man took their side. Fortunately, it turned out there was surveillance footage of what had happened, which showed that the man had indeed fallen over on his own. That's when the family apparently went silent and also reimbursed the policewoman for the medical bills. By this point, though, the woman was evidently no longer in a forgiving mood. She reportedly sued the family for intimidation and emotional damage and was awarded 40,000 yuan, or about $5,600, when the case went to court. After the ruling, local media reports state she donated all of the money to charity. Authorities in the Thai province of Rayong say that a man offered quite the novel excuse this week after he was accused of starting a dangerous fire that destroyed 2 vehicles in a residential area. According to reports, the whole thing started at around 3:30 a.m. on November 6th, when emergency responders were alerted to a large fire outside of a complex of condo buildings in Pluak district. Firefighters quickly responded to the scene and were able to get the blaze under control, though unfortunately not before it had completely destroyed 2 cars that had been parked on the street. After launching an investigation, police were able to obtain surveillance video from the surrounding area, ultimately leading them to footage of the alleged culprit. The footage allegedly showed a 33-year-old man, identified only by the nickname Ice, pulling up to the crime scene on a motorbike. He proceeded to douse the 2 vehicles in gasoline before setting them on fire and driving away. Authorities managed to track Ice down on November 16th, at which point he was placed under arrest. However, after being taken into custody, he offered this bizarre excuse for his actions. Ice said that he had nothing against the owners of the 2 vehicles he had torched. Rather, their cars were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. You see, he was frustrated because he had just lost a game on his cell phone. Setting the fire was his way of relieving stress. If that sounds like some strange reasoning, it sounded far-fetched to police as well. That was, until they discovered that the 33-year-old was also under the influence of methamphetamine, 5 tablets of which were allegedly found on his person when he was taken into custody. At the time of this recording, authorities say Ice is facing drug possession and arson charges. If convicted, he could reportedly be looking at a hefty prison sentence of up to 15 years, as well as a fine of 1.5 million baht, or about $42,000 US. A 12-year-old Australian girl is reportedly facing murder charges this week following a fatal attack at an apartment complex, a crime which local youth workers say was both avoidable and predictable, but whose warning signs were allegedly ignored by police and government officials. The situation began at around 2 a.m. on November 16th when police were called to the complex in question on Barclay Street, located in the Melbourne suburb of Footscray. Officers arrived to find the body of a 37-year-old woman in one of the units there. She had been stabbed to death, with neighbors allegedly overhearing the crime as it was unfolding. Shortly after beginning an investigation, police arrested a 12-year-old girl at the scene. She has now been charged with murdering the victim. Neither of their names have been released, and it's unclear how or whether they actually knew each other. As disturbing as the tragedy is, local youth workers say that they saw something like this coming, referring to the situation as a time bomb. According to them, the girl was in state care for at least a year prior to the killing, but had been extremely neglected. They allege that the girl was, quote, selling herself to older men for money and was frequently seen in the area. Despite repeated calls to police and government officials, though, the youth workers say that their concerns fell on deaf ears. This was apparently true even after they alerted them that the 12-year-old's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic in the weeks leading up to the murder. One youth worker, Samantha Cafaro, claims she was told by police, quote, they can't do anything, they can't approach her, and they can't stop these men. Cafaro and her colleagues say they believe the girl was completely failed by the system. At the time of this recording, the 12-year-old remains in custody. The investigation continues. People across Italy are expressing their sadness and outrage this week following the brutal murder of a 22-year-old student at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. According to reports, Giulia Cecchettin was a 22-year-old engineering student at the University of Padua. She was supposed to graduate on November 16th and start the next chapter of her life. Instead, her body would be found under horrifying circumstances just 2 days later. Police now say that the disturbing case began on the evening of November 11th when Giulia agreed to go out for dinner with her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Filippo Torretta. The pair traveled to a shopping center in the Venetian borough of Marghera, where they were witnessed sharing a meal together. However, on the way back to Giulia's house in Viganovo, where she was supposed to be dropped off, authorities say Torretta stopped the car at a local parking lot. It was here where he allegedly first attacked Giulia. Bystanders, who didn't realize what they had seen until later, reportedly told investigators that they heard Giulia screaming and yelling, quote, "You're hurting me like this," and saw a man believed to be Torretta kicking her on the ground. During the assault, Giulia reportedly fell unconscious and was allegedly thrown back into the vehicle by Torretta, who also duct-taped her mouth before driving away. Police say that Giulia continued to fight for her life when she regained consciousness and was actually able to escape from the car. However, Torretta caught up to her and was allegedly captured on surveillance, throwing her to the ground, causing her to pass out once again. Half an hour later, investigators say the 22-year-old viciously stabbed his ex-girlfriend to death, leaving her with at least 20 injuries to her neck and head. After the murder, authorities say Torretta drove Giulia's body to a secluded area about 60 miles north and dumped her near a lake. The remains were ultimately discovered by a search team on November 18th. By this point, police had reportedly uncovered extensive evidence linking Torretta to the crime and were following his trail with the help of more surveillance video and witness reports. One of these reports apparently came from a convenience store owner about 100 miles away from the country's border with Austria. The owner called authorities after Torretta made a purchase at the store and allegedly paid with cash that had blood on it. On November 19th, the day after Giulia's body was found, Torretta was finally tracked down and arrested by police in Germany. He was caught after his car ran out of gas near the city of Leipzig, and he didn't have money to buy more fuel. He was spotted at the side of the road by another motorist who had no idea who he was. At the time of this recording, Torretta is awaiting extradition back to Italy, where he is expected to face murder charges. News of the terrible crime has since caused widespread outrage across Italy, with many taking to the streets both in memory of Giulia and to speak out about violence against women. Giulia's father and sister have said that they will do all they can to fight for justice for her and for other victims of similar crimes. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.